Welcome to another week here in the House of Classics. Today, we're discovering a rare Bugatti that spent over 70 years underwater. Welcome to Double Clutch.
Well, it's interesting. Visitors come to this museum and they really come to perhaps look at the Bugatti Atlantique, or maybe a Type 55, or maybe the Voisin. And that's what's in their head as they drive up here. When they leave, almost inevitably, they're talking about this car, which is known as the Bugatti of the Lake or the Beauty of the Deep. And it's because the story is so intriguing. In 1925, this car was built. It's a Type 22 Brescia Racing Bugatti. And it was owned and raced by René Dreyfuss, maybe the most famous of all the Bugatti drivers. And as the story goes, he was in a poker game in Paris with a Swiss gentleman who was a professional gambler. And theoretically, after several bombs of champagne, their betting got higher and higher. In any case, René Dreyfuss bet on the hand he held this Bugatti as his stake in that hand. And he lost. So the Swiss gentleman took the car, drove it back from France to, was on his way to Ascona in Switzerland, and he got to the border, and the French customs agents and the Swiss customs agents said, "Where do you think you're going?" He said, "No, I'm a Swiss citizen, here's my passport, etc., etc." They said, "Well, you may be a Swiss citizen, and that passport might work for you, but you're not bringing this car in there because this car has not been through customs and it does not have papers." So they were going to charge him customs duty on it, and like most gamblers, they're either flush or broke, but there's nothing in between. He happened to be broke at the time, so he couldn't pay the customs duties. So they said, "Look, we'll give you 2 weeks to come back here and redeem your car. Otherwise, we're confiscating it." And he couldn't come up with the money. So the Swiss customs engineers, because they had a rule in Switzerland that anything impounded by customs had to be destroyed. So what they decided was a brilliant idea. They were going to shove this car into one of the great lakes right there, Lago Maggiore. But they were going to put it on the end of a 35-foot chain, and so that it would be suspended from a chain, and then after the heat died down and the media died down about it, they would pull the car back out. Then they'd have themselves a free Bugatti, which was a brilliant idea, except that they used a rusty chain. And so one of the links broke, and the car fell from 35 feet down to 173 feet down at the bottom of Lago Maggiore. And of course, this was 1935. There was no way you could pull out a car out of a 173-foot lake. At the time, they didn't have the technology. So it sat there all the way through to the 90s. And divers used to go down there, and that was like part of your bucket list. Did you ever see the Lady of the Lake? And so if a diver would go down and be able to see it, and they could check their bucket list. And children used to be told a story, you know, the Bugatti of the Deep, the Lady of the Lake, almost like a Mother Goose riddle. And so the son of the president of Ascona Diving Club, Domino Tagmani, who was 19 years old, also a diver, was in a carnival, and a bunch of youths, gang of youths, attacked him and beat him up so bad that he actually died. And so the Ascona diving team decided that they were going to try to go down and lift this car out of the lake and auction it off and take the money and use it to fund a trust to combat youth violence. So that's what they did in whatever it was, 10 plus years ago. At Bonham's in Paris, they auctioned the car, and Bonham's agreed to give them all the money, not charge an auction fee, and go to fund this effort. Well, the whole story, when I read it, got to me. René Dreyfuss, Brescia, poker game, champagne, youth violence, bringing it up out of the lake. So I couldn't resist. And although, you know, we talk about stories with cars. Cars are nice, stories are better. What I ultimately had to bid to get this car, better make it a good story, because it was way more than the car probably fundamentally was worth. But then the question is, what do you do with it? And the car had fallen in the mud on its side, So this entire side is protected by the mud. So it's a freshwater lake, and mud is a preservative. And so the other side was completely, which faced up in the water, was completely worn away, but this side was preserved. It kind of demonstrated that it might have been a brilliant piece of sculpture by Ettore Bugatti, but Mother Nature was the final sculptor that turned it into this. So our conclusion was we should never touch it, just preserve it, figure out how to save the metal. We retained the University of Michigan to help us understand what you do with things that are brought out of the Mediterranean, and you want to preserve it. And we treated it with that, and then we haven't touched it, and we're never going to touch it, because this is an art piece that doesn't deserve anything done except preservation.
We hope you enjoyed this classic car story and its unique journey. We'll see you on Thursday, where we'll continue our 55 Buick restoration here on Double Clutch.